China made its incursion into Nigeria about 10 years ago, increased its incursion into Nigeria about 10 years ago. And of course, top on its shopping list is oil. And China came the same way that it has gone into other African countries, offering concessionary facilities, aid, and other infrastructure that knows that African countries need. This has excited the government of Nigeria, especially in the time of President Obasanjo. And China came, promised to do railway reforms for about $8.2 billion. But that didn't quite go well because when the new administration came in, that particular project was suspended. There are other projects like the refinery project in Kaduna, which also did not take off. So what China has done now is to make acquisition from private companies. We know that in 2006, China acquired about 45% of the South Atlantic Petroleum Block, the Akpo field, which has a production profile of about 225,000 barrels. So China's 45% will probably work up to about slightly over 100,000 barrels. And last year, China acquired Edax Petroleum, which gave it access to assets in Nigeria and Gabon. So it's not really been easy going for China, but China has been patient and dogged. Right. There are things going on in the oil industry. Shell is looking to reduce its investments in Nigeria, and I'm sure that China will be looking to take a position there when it becomes available. Also, oil blocks are coming up for renewal, and I'm sure that China will also be looking at that.
We also know that the Chinese have been speaking to the Lagos state government, for instance, about building a refinery. So they've got a huge profile that they're trying to build up in the oil and gas sector. What about investments beyond that, for instance?
Yeah, there are other investments beyond that. In Lagos, for instance, there's the Lagos Free Trade Zone that's going on along the Lekki corridor, where the Chinese are very active. I think the Chinese have about 60% of that particular investment, and Lagos state government has about 40%. And there are quite a number of things that they plan to put in there, and I believe that the refinery is one of those projects that they plan to put in that free trade zone. They have another free trade zone in Ogun State called the Igbesa Free Trade Zone, which I believe has taken off. The Chinese have been very active in the construction industry in Nigeria, and also in telecommunications industry. Right. I know that they made some huge investments through Huawei and also ZTE in Nigeria.
All right, let's talk about the fact that Nigeria is the third largest supplier of crude to the United States. And there is a sense that some of the challenges China may have faced in Nigeria is because it's creating a bit of a catch-22 situation for Nigeria, which finds itself at a crossroads of geopolitics. Do they continue with their traditional relationship with the United States, or do they enter into a new partnership with China, which wouldn't necessarily be very pleasing to the Americans? Is that a fair point?
Yeah, that's a fair point. They have those challenges. The traditional partners of Nigeria, of course, have been in the country for 40 years, 50 years. China's incursion lately has just been in the last 10 years. But then we must realize that that this is a very important move for China. China needs to feed its growing economy, and China knows that Africa has about 9% of the world's proven reserve, and analysts believe that there's still quite a number of undiscovered resources in Africa. So it is very, very important for China to continue to dig in, so to speak. Right, the Americans are there, and Nigeria will also try to keep the relationship with the Americans, but the Chinese are dangling various things that African governments will be interested in. They're talking soft loans, they're talking aid without conditions, they're talking infrastructure building, and infrastructure is very, 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 very close to the hearts of most African countries. These are things that are required. So for as long as the Chinese are pushing that point, African countries will continue to listen to them and find out how they can accommodate all the interests.